Australia 16 years ago and decided to stay there have been ordered to leave. Charlie and Doris Gibson, who are both 81, settled in the country and built up a business they still run. They say they don't want to return to Britain because it's too cold. Libby Vina reports from Sydney.
They are unlikely outlaws, but Doris and Charlie Gibson, who run a pet shop in South Sydney, have overstayed their welcome in Australia by 16 years. They came here from Britain on a tourist visa shortly after they retired and never moved on. The immigration authorities caught up with them because they began claiming a pension. They say they know they've made mistakes, but at 81 they're too old to settle anywhere new.
Well, we'd be terribly upset, actually, and, you know, we will be broken-hearted because we have hundreds and hundreds of friends. This is our home now. We're just in our little shop. So where's the sense of this?
I mean, we've only got a few more years to go anyway.
Yeah.
So why harass on their last couple of years? Let us live as we've been living.
Local shopkeepers have rallied round, petitioning the minister to allow them to stay.
They've been here for 16 years. They've worked very hard. They're here at 6:30 in the morning. They work all day. They're over 80. They deserve to stay and they deserve that shop.
And their MP says Australia, of all places, should think hard before deporting the Cockney couple.
My own ancestors came from Britain over 200 years ago in chains, but I don't think we need to repay the favour.
So far, the immigration authorities are standing firm. They say the Gibsons may prefer sunny Sydney, but their excuse that they can't go home because it's too cold is no reason to bend the rules. Libby Vina, ITN, Sydney.
Another 1,500 refugees from the anarchy and violence in Albania have arrived in southern Italy. Thousands more are lining up to follow them across the Adriatic, despite the huge fees being demanded for the crossing. They're leaving in any vessel which will take them, from ports like Durrës. Our Europe correspondent, Bill Neely, is there.
Gun law and desperation on Albania's beaches. They are trying to flee the country. The thugs are trying to fleece them before they go, forcing back those who can't pay to go to Italy. They fire over the heads of tiny children. They are often out of control. In the end, the children can take no more. Some get through. They've paid £200 each to board the speedboats which go to the fishing boats which might make it across the choppy seas. Armed police arrive, but instead of stopping the gunmen, they embrace them, and the trade goes on. The poorest give up, this man leaving with his handicapped son. Nearby, hundreds board a boat, but it's rusty and it's going nowhere.
Only hope is to go in West, in England, in America, in Germany.
Police gunfire scatters them, but they'll soon be back. These people are waiting to go on a boat that will probably never come. And they're waiting for Albania's president to go, but he has no intention of doing so. He remains isolated inside the presidential palace while order is restored around him. He doesn't have to resign, say the opposition, because his power has disappeared, and in June's election, he will too.
I don't think that the political forces should demand officially his resignation. I think that he should stay aside, in terms of stepping aside, instead of stepping down.
That may be enough to stop the rebellion, but just in case it erupts again, the tanks are out in force in the capital, calming the chaos that has been Albania. Bill Neely, ITN, Tirana.
Britain's VSEL company has won an order worth £300 million to supply guns to the United States Marines. It's the first time since World War I that the Americans have bought artillery from abroad on such a scale. Since the end of the Cold War, the Russians have also been hoping to sell weapons to Washington. Their Kalashnikov rifle sells well on world markets. But as Nick Valentine reports, the workers who make it are still waiting for their wages.
Russia's AK-47, the weapon of choice for insurgents and revolutionaries, even when the revolution is against the Russians themselves. In Chechnya, as in half a hundred other post-1945 conflicts, the Kalashnikov assault rifle has become an icon for the late 20th century. It's now 50 years since the first batch of AK-47s went into production at the factory in Izhevsk, a long way east of Moscow. The AK's father, Mikhail Kalashnikov, is still in charge. He originally designed the AK as a young sergeant in the Red Army. He wanted to give Russia the world's best assault rifle. He succeeded.
I'm constantly watching what we have to offer in terms of quality and effectiveness. And up till now, there's no more reliable and simple weapon than ours. I'll be the first to shake hands with the man who can design a better gun.
What makes the Kalashnikov so special is its ruggedness. For instance, it's virtually guaranteed to shoot when wet or muddy, unlike the American M16. But despite the gun's popularity, making Kalashnikovs no longer makes a profit. In the old days, almost all AKs were made for the Defense Ministry. In the post-Soviet era, domestic orders have plummeted, and Kalashnikov has not been able to find private buyers because arms sales are still controlled from Moscow. 2/5 of the workers have now been laid off, and those remaining haven't been paid in months. So Mikhail Kalashnikov has become a globe-trotting salesman for his own creation, here at the annual Abu Dhabi Arms Fair, extolling the AK's virtues to potential Arab buyers. Back home, his son Victor has now designed a more modern AK, one focused on urban fighting, as the weapon of the future, which he hopes will regain Russian share of the international arms market.
Once the US and Russia both had an equal percentage of the market, but now Russia has basically lost the market. These days it's something like 2-to-1 in gun sales.
For now, the factory has been forced to turn to the domestic market in order to survive. Much of its production is now focused on making hunting rifles, one weapon that can be sold to the general public. Nick Valentine, ITN.
You're watching the morning news from ITV.